So I know normally on the show we're all about mixed martial arts and everything like that, but right now I want to take a minute to discuss a crime. If you guys watched the last Bellator event, you saw, or not the last Bellator event, you watched Rory McDonald versus Jon Fitch. You saw an amazing fight, but you see one of those instances where the judges make the mistakes. Personally, in this fight, I think Jon Fitch was robbed, and we have with us today Jon Fitch to share his opinion on that.
How's it going?
I'm doing great.
Welcome to our show. Like Ben said before, we are big fans of yours, and thank you for giving us your time.
Oh, no worries, man. Thanks.
So, let's get this right out in the open here. First things first. I gave you rounds 1, 3, and 5. I'm not a ref. I'm not certified. I don't know what your take on the fight was. I gave you rounds 1, 3, and 5. Is that fair?
I thought 1, 3, 4, and 5. I thought I got the last 3 for sure. It wasn't until I watched the fight back that I realized that I'd won the first round too.
Now, see, in the fourth round of the fight, it looked like he had you in some trouble there. I believe it was the fourth round, the first half of the fourth, I think.
I don't remember if that was the. I can't remember if I was put in trouble in the second round or the fourth round.
I think it was the first half of the fourth round. He had you up against the fence. You were eating some shots there, and you came back out of it quickly. How much trouble were you in, and were you did you fear that the fight was going to be stopped, or?
There was one point where I got hit kind of behind the ear from a knee when he was escaping from the takedown, and that got me wobbly for a little bit. And I can't remember which, if that was the second or fourth round. But, watching the video back, you can see as he kicks away, he kind of horse kicks me in the head. And I almost go limp on the mat when I was on my knees from that knee. But I recovered from that within the next, 15, 20 seconds or so. Turn the rest of the round around, I think.
Now, I wanted to ask you, do you feel like, with this whole tournament deal, do you feel like you should have been the one to advance, considering the one judge that did actually have a scorecard that would have decided the fight, ruled it for you?
Man, yeah, I don't understand how the judges could not, pick a winner. It seems their job is pretty straightforward. I think I don't know. There needs to be better criteria for scoring something. It shouldn't be something that comes up often or ever. A draw. I don't see how you let that happen.
And which one is more upsetting, the draw that you had with McDonald or the one with BJ Penn?
Well, I think there's more riding on the one with McDonald. There's the rest of the tournament, fatter paychecks for the next fights in the tournament. Yeah, it definitely hurts more for sure.
Yeah. Having a draw with the current champion, do you think that means that you deserve a title fight with whoever wins the tournament?
I mean, what is deserved? Who deserves what? Especially in this crazy sport. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. If Rory makes it through the tournament unscathed and they think they can sell the fight, then maybe that fight will happen. I don't know. We'll see.
And as a big fan of yours, I hate to disagree with you, but I'm gonna have to. What is deserve? Somebody at 41 years of age who go in there and beat up a 29-year-old champion and make him say that I really don't like hurting people anymore. Like, you beat him into a whole nother mindset. What do you mean? Like, I think you definitely deserve another crack at that title.
Yeah, I mean, I've done enough, and I don't know. It sucks that I didn't get to take home the belt that night, but I'm so happy with my performance. I think everybody knows I'm really the champ, so that's good enough.
Well, I mean, like I said, I had you winning that fight. So in my eyes, you're the Bellator welterweight champion. Let's look at the other accomplishments, though. The resume for Jon Fitch is a very impressive one. NCAA Division I wrestler, PFL, and World Series of Fighting welterweight champion. I believe you're the first welterweight champion of PFL. Defended each of those belts one time. At one point, you had the UFC's record for most consecutive wins in a row. You were a welterweight title challenger. You have 2 Fight of the Nights. The list goes on and on. Out of all the accomplishments, do you have a favorite? Do you have one that holds the more value than the others?
I don't know, man. They're all pretty great. They're kind of just one giant accumulation of everything together, just kind of representation of just doing things the way I wanted to do them and having success with it.
Yeah.
And then
having fought in with top contenders in the UFC and now fighting with top contenders in Bellator, do you think that the level of competition in Bellator in the welterweight division is very high, or what do you think, if you can compare it to the welterweight division in the UFC?
No, I think Bellator's welterweight division is comparable to what UFC has. I don't think I don't think they separate themselves in skill set in any way. I think any of the guys fighting in this tournament could cross over and do well and be successful in the UFC. I think the UFC's title is just more recognized worldwide as a top title. I don't necessarily think that's because they have the best fighters at that weight class.
Absolutely.
Now, you've made a couple appearances on TV. Is there any plans to maybe go back to that? We saw you in Fight Life. We've seen you on Mythbusters. Do we plan on going back to either, television or movies?
I mean, I don't know. I'd be interested in seeing what's available, what works, what doesn't work, what I'm good at, what I suck at.
Hey, I mean, if John Cena can go and make movies, man, I think you can do it. I'm more than confident.
It's true.
Jon Fitch on the big screen, man. I think we could get some awards going there, add to the resume a little more. I know I'd be the first one to buy a movie, buy the ticket to go see the movie if Jon Fitch is in the fucking thing. And then a fan question here. This is kind of another one of those, what's your favorite? Out of all the wins that you've had in your career, you look back at the 32 wins that you've packed together there. Which one of those is your favorite or holds the most value?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, the funnest one was the Eric Silva fight, just because it was a big deal at the time. I think the position I was in, the struggles, the financial struggles I was having, it was just a big fight all the way around.
Went down to Rio, silenced a crowd, put on a Fight of the Night performance. I remember watching that fight in a friend of mine's house, sitting on the edge of the couch, screaming at the TV the entire time. That was one of the best fights to watch as a fan on the entire card, I believe. Earning you $50,000, though, I mean, so obviously it was a good fight.
It's good.
Before I ask my next question, I just want to state that I am not one of the people that feels this way. I have always believed in Jon Fitch as the clean, the athlete, that does everything the right way. You have naysayers that say that you've used PEDs. How do you respond to that?
Well, I got caught in 2014 when I fought Rusma Flores. And I've talked about that quite a bit on my live streams and the situations where I rationalize using, but I have not gone back to the dark side. It was a short-lived experiment. It was kind of an embarrassment, and I didn't really see much advantage to using. So I don't recommend anybody in a weight class sport using testosterone. I don't think it's very beneficial.
I mean, look at Jon Fitch now. Without anything in his system, he goes out there and puts on what should have been a championship-winning performance. How do you do it at 41 years old, man? There's guys that are starting out the game in their 20s that'll never have as much potential as you have right now, towards the end of the career. But how do you do it?
Discipline, man. You'll never get by on motivation, because motivation comes and goes. You gotta set your clock and set your schedules and stick to them. I think the meal prep and the change in my diet has made a huge impact over the last 3 years or so. But you just have to stay on point. And I think when you start getting into the shitty food, it goes downhill fast. I think in a week's time, I put on a lot of excess weight and I'm a little puffy. I got to get back to my diet.
And then one of the questions from an amateur fighter out of my area, we have a lot of amateur fighters that listen to the show. A lot of them were really excited to know that you were coming on, and one of them was, you had a lot of time to, as they said, perfect your craft in the cage. You've had a lot of time to figure out what does and doesn't work for you. Is there any, how did you do that, and what are some of the tools that you recommend to help fighters figure out who they are in that cage?
I've been lucky to have a lot of great coaches around me, but I've always kind of had to look at everything analytically. So, I've always been the one to break things down and try to figure out the why, not just what or how. Looking for, not just technique, but an ideology behind the technique. What's the baseline that connects the two things? That's just something that I've put a lot of time into, and it's kind of the way I attack technique and problems, just threading things together and trying to find solutions.
And you definitely bring that in the cage with you. You're so technical in there. You watch, you hear the term human chess, and you really turn it into that chess battle. Everything you do is so calculated. And that's one of the things I wanted to make sure I said to you. I know I'm kind of rambling here. Forgive me for being starstruck, one of my favorite fighters. So this is a huge honor for me. Let me ask you about one of your first fights in your career. You fought, or it was actually your first fight in your professional career, Mike Pyle. He is also another veteran of the sport. Is that something you would ever run back?
If there was interest and money involved, then maybe, yeah, I guess. It's funny that, he was able to continue fighting and continue winning. We crossed paths so early on in our careers. I had never even had a single jiu-jitsu class at the time. So, why not, I guess.
And that fight, guys, if for those of you that don't know, that happened all the way back in 2002. Which doesn't seem like that long ago when now that you think about it, you're like, holy shit. Like,
it's a while ago.
Now, you've had
the Stardust Hotel.
Yeah.
The hotel doesn't even exist anymore.
That was in Las Vegas, yep.
Yep.
It's amazing. It all started in Vegas. Now, out of all the places that you've been to fight, you've been all over the country. Which has been your favorite destination? I mean, you've been to Australia and, or I believe Australia, right? Yeah. And Rio de Janeiro, all over the country. What's the favorite spot?
Rio was a lot of fun. I got to go, I've been to Japan a few times. I fought there once a long time ago. Japan's a lot of fun, at least Tokyo is. Man, those are some pretty cool places. I've been to Mexico too. Mexico was a good time. Down in Monterrey is a nice city. But that's one of the reasons I like fighting is because the opportunity it gave me to travel. And then I think I'll be able to use it to travel, the rest of my life too, going out and teaching seminars, teaching people technique, teaching people my system, how to smash people.
As of right now, what would you say is your legacy?
Man, I don't even know. That's a deep question. I don't know what my legacy is. I don't know. Just resilience, just not giving up.
I think the MMA record speaks for itself. 32 wins, 7 losses, only facing like a big competition. I think the MMA record speaks for itself. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, like, in your career, you had 42 fights. Like, did your training routine change a lot from now that you are, older than when you start training?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I don't put in as many hard sparring rounds as I used to. Even my light sparring rounds are less. There's a lot more drilling. There's a lot more putting threads together. A lot more focus on strength and conditioning than before. Just not taking as many risks as far as going hard and grappling hard in training. You can get a lot more out of hard drills and appropriate drills. So there's a big shift towards that in the later years. Like when you're young though, and you're inexperienced, sometimes you do need a lot of hard rounds though.
Yeah.
What would be the biggest piece of advice you can give to a young mixed martial artist?
Man, figure out more ways to get paid than just fighting, because it can be a rough road, and there's not exactly renting money anywhere. So you need to leverage your fighting into other avenues of making yourself money.
And there's things that you can do like opening gyms, or what would be the best avenue that you would recommend?
The lowest cost to you would be something like affiliate sales. Find goods and products and services that you already use, and see if you can get sales commissions by promoting the product.
So sponsorship deals, things like that. Now, we had a couple of amateur fighters wondering how you go about getting sponsors.
It's hard nowadays because there's not that many sponsors around. That's why I recommend looking to do affiliate sales type stuff, because most places have affiliate programs you can sign up for, and then you can get links that you can promote and get people to click on and get sales commissions by recommending the products. So we're back in the day, you might get a few $1,000s from somebody to promote their thing. Nowadays they'll recruit you to help do sales instead. So it's just a shift in the market, but it's a way you can nab some dollars on the side through self-promotion.
And then another one of our fan questions here: what keeps you motivated to stay in the sport after this long?
I just like it. I don't know what else I want to do. I haven't figured out what else to do yet. I like training all the time. I like doing interviews. I like fighting people for money. It's fun. What's not to like?
Exactly. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I've seen it on your Jon Fitch Smash Facebook page. Those toke stones, man. Where are those coming from? Tell me the story on those.
I make them.
Really?
So I've seen them made out of like clay and whatever before, and I had a buddy who got the idea to drill a hole in a river rock. So he did that, and it was really hard, and he broke a lot of them, and then I figured out a way to do it more easily, and then it was so easy I started carving designs and stuff in the stone. So it's just kind of like one of my outlets.
I'm going to have to buy one of them now that I know that you're hand carving these things, man. Now, what do those go for, just as like a quick advertising pitch for you?
It depends on how much time I put into making it, really. So they're anywhere from like $25 to like $200. Damn.
That's still $25 at least, well spent, you know what I mean? Now, a hand carved by Jon Fitch himself for at least, $25 for the cheapest one. That's so fucking worth it. And then the shipping, that's extra as well, right?
I think there's a standard shipping cost to put onto it, yeah.
It's
like
not bad.
$5 or something.
Either way, though, still, that is such a good deal. I saw a couple of them. There was like a brown one that you put up there a while ago. It was beautiful. I wanted that one, but I'll have to go on there and pick out like 20 of them and narrow it down one by one. You know how it goes. Now, What are your other hobbies outside of fighting?
I'm just starting to get back into having some hobbies, but I've been shooting a bow and arrow again here and there. I'll try to get out a couple times a month to do that. Now it's nice and the weather's out again. But other than that, I've been trying to make myself sit down and write, because I got more books I got to put out, and I just got to be disciplined with making myself sit down.
And for those of us that haven't read the first book, because you have put out one before, it was oh my god, I can't remember the name of it. What is the name of that book?
Failing Upward: Death by Ego.
That's all right. And tell us about that book.
Well, I kept journals. I've been keeping journals for a long time, and I decided to start sharing some of the older ones, and then kind of writing reflections over them. So a lot of the early American Kickboxing Academy type stuff, the old, trying out for tough, season 1 stuff like that's in there, and I put that together and made it available this last December, I think. I got other books to work on to put some more stuff out there.
And would you be willing to share with us some of the other things we can look forward in the next couple of books that you're going to be releasing, or is that still on the secret level?
I still have to go through it because I'm kind of writing the reflections as I go through it the first time, so I have a more clear reaction to it rather than having a bunch of time to think it over.
So, describe to me your writing process then, because that's something I enjoy doing myself, is sitting down and writing or typing.
I don't know if I have one yet. I feel like I need space and time to isolate myself to be able to sit down and start being creative. And when I have my kids around, they disrupt my day. So I haven't been able to get anything done the last 2 days. So I've been trying to force myself to write. So I think hopefully I'll get something done tomorrow or Thursday. I think it's going to be the optimal time.
And what are your favorite things to write about? Is there a specific topic? If you're just going to write some short whatever for only you, is there a specific topic you prefer, or?
Well, I think the style of the books with the journals are going to be pretty similar. It's mostly reflection type stuff, lessons learned, whatever. Maybe some backstories to some of the events that were happening. But the other book I want to do is a weight cutting book. My friend was recommending to me that I have it down to such a science, and I have such an easy time making the weight and cutting the weight that I should just create a small, cheap book explaining what I do. So I thought that was a pretty good idea. I'm getting to work on seeing if I can put something together with that. Now,
is your weight cutting technique something you'd like to talk to us about, or is that another secret type of thing?
It's not super secret, but I think it works so well for me. I can't see why more people don't adopt something similar. I don't know why they're struggling with all these other gadgets and things they're doing. The biggest part of it is having a scheduled meal plan and sticking to that, and that alone builds a solid base where it's a lot easier to take the water weight off when it gets close to fight time. So I don't know. I feel like I've developed a pretty good system over the past 17 years, the last 3 years, especially with the diet changes. So I think it might be interesting enough to put together in a little short book and sell for a couple bucks.
Yeah. Now, you seem like you're very motivated to help the young mixed martial artist.
I just have a lot of information. I've learned a lot. I've got a lot to teach, so I might as well, put it back out there. I can't take it with me when I'm dead, so I might as well share.
Now, I know you toyed around recently with the idea of retirement. Is coaching something you might want to do afterwards, or?
On some level, I'm doing a little bit of like online coaching with people here and there. But yeah, coaching, teaching, instructing. I like doing seminars. I think that's a good way to interact with people and share my knowledge and help people be healthier, feel safer, be able to protect themselves.
Yeah. And before talking about retirement plans, like right now you're in a great winning streak, and the fight against Rory McDonald you look terrific in it. Like, what's next after this fight? Before talking about do you plan on fighting someone in Bellator? Do you think you have someone planned to fight right now, or?
No plans right now. I got to get the staples and the stitches out of my head tomorrow, and then we'll start getting around, sweating a little bit, and seeing how I feel, and try to stay a little bit ready in case something happens and somebody pulls out last minute for, the fights coming up, just in case. So, just kind of be ready.
Well, yeah, you would be the first guy I would pick for a replacement if I was, in the Bellator brass, because technically you never lost.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I would say it's correct. Yeah.
So are you trying to stay in like top shape just in case that call comes?
Well, I mean, I ate a lot of shitty food this last week, but I'll get back to eating regularly, and I'll be in pretty decent shape moving forward. Yeah.
And what would you say is shitty food? When you say shitty food, what do you mean by that?
Like my kids like snack food.
No. Okay.
graham crackers and like cookies and just not good. They're chocolate milks. Yeah.
All sorts of shit in there. All the pizza and beer and.
Yeah, and I just gone to like Costco and stocked up on supplies, so I smashed through all their supplies in a couple days.
So, which type of diet do you recommend or follow yourself?
I do more of a bodybuilding type diet where I'm eating 6 times a day, so my meals are broken up throughout the day. 2 of them are shakes, but when you break your meals up like that, it keeps you from getting hungry, because by the time you start to get hungry again, it's time for your next meal, so you're not like snacking or trying to figure out what to eat. I eat quite a bit of meat, very low carb, and whatever veggies I want. So I eat plenty of food. I get full. I don't crave shitty food, and then weekends I get cheat meals. It works well. I think it's just a lot of boring food. You're doing a lot of repetition, a lot of the same food over and over and over again. And I'm fine with that because I know I'll get a treat on the weekend.
And what is your go-to cheat meal?
Cheeseburger.
Oh yeah, throw some bacon on that shit.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
A little avocado. Yeah, it's good.
And what's one of the harder parts? Another fan question here. What's one of the hardest parts about being a fighter and a father?
Man, time management can be difficult because the kids need what the kids need, and you gotta bend everything else around it. So, like for one of my problems is, I gotta get them in bed by 8, so that it takes them a while to calm down and fall asleep, and I don't want them getting in trouble at school the next day because they're tired from being up late, type of shit. So, I gotta make sure that they've been showered and eaten and shit before 8 o'clock, which means I gotta be home by 7, which limits the amount of time I have to have them in some kind of after-school program and get my workout in and get them home. So you got to suck it up, and I end up having to get my work in at 5 instead of, ideally I'd rather do it at like 7:30. Becomes something you just have to schedule in and get it done.
And how many times have your kids used the my dad can beat up your dad thing?
I don't think they even really understand really what I do.
Oh, they're not old enough yet?
Well, they're not really around it. They see me train, but they haven't watched a fight. They haven't gone to fights. I don't think their friends are even really old enough to know what it is. So he was asking me if I could beat John Cena in a fight. So I think one of his friends must watch a lot of pro wrestling or something.
We'll see, the difference is I actually hit people. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I mean,
what was your answer to that question? If you can beat John Cena, what was your answer?
I said, of course I could beat him, John Cena.
Well, he's very elusive. You have to be able to see him to be able to hit him. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Now, that's right here.
That was the other thing I noticed. You seemed like you were rather hard for Rory to hit in that fight. What do you train to make sure you stay elusive?
That's that's part of the game is to hit and not get hit. It's, you're supposed to damage and not take damage. So even if you get hit a little bit, you need to be rolling with the punches. You need to flow with things and prevent any serious impact.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about a fighter who's in the Grand Prix tournaments. It's a MVP Michael Venom page. So let's imagine if MVP win the tournament. Is he a fighter that you want to fight next? Because the fight make really sense because there's a lot of hype behind him. And people said that his Paul Daly fights, he didn't look that good. And you are a guy that already defeated Paul Daly. So do you think that's a matchup that makes sense? And what do you think about just that?
It's possible. I don't know. Nobody's, I haven't talked to anybody about next steps or what's going on. I think just getting into semi-decent shape and staying sort of ready isn't a bad idea.
I think you defang a snake is what would happen if that fight ever came to fruition. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I'm fangirling again. Look at me. Now, we've talked about the weight cutting and things like that. What's the most difficult part of being a mixed martial artist?
Man, like not having a steady paycheck. Because you only get paid when you fight, and if the promoter doesn't give you regular fights, that can be difficult. If you end up getting injured and you can't fight, well, now you can't make any money until you're healthy again. And then that usually puts pressure on you to get back and fight sooner than you should be. So it's just, constant struggle. So it would be nice to have more regular pay. That'd be good.
And we're kind of getting to the point in the interview where I want to give you an opportunity to give some shout-outs to your friends, family members, coaches, sponsors, things like that. Anybody that's helped you in this MMA journey. So I'd like to give you a time, make sure you hit them all and not leave anybody out.
Well, I think mostly just want to send people to my website, jonfitch.net. You can follow all my social media stuff. Check out my book, Failing Upward, Death by Ego. I got blogs and stuff on the website. Official Jon Fitch, my YouTube page. I do live streams a lot. Fitch and Tinkle Smash Everything is a podcast that we have posted on Podbean. We're waiting for approval on iTunes, but we have episodes up and running now. So I just have a lot of side projects working on. Check them out. I do also offer online coaching and stuff, so I can be reached through email and stuff from my website.
And then just one last thing. If you had to give one piece of advice to aspiring mixed martial artists, just one last thing to leave us with, what would it be?
Man, make sure you develop your system. Create your system, your style of fighting. Don't try to form yours to anyone else. Just be like PW and sample. It's sample everybody's stuff. Create your own system.
Well, hey man, I definitely appreciate you taking the time. We know you're very busy trying to write books and be a father and a mixed martial artist all at the same time. So I really appreciate you taking the time. This is by far one of the, I'm very honored for this interview. I'm sorry I'm stumbling over my words because, once again, I'm starstruck here. So thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Fitch.